Good day, everyone. My name is Michael Hurd with ADHD Expression. Joining me today is Debra Burdick from you're over in New York and you run the Brain Lady.
That's right, I do.
So, what makes you the Brain Lady?
Well, I'm a licensed clinical social worker and I'm a board certified neurofeedback practitioner. And I combine psychotherapy and neurofeedback and mindfulness to help people really feel better and think better and perform at their peak. And it's been quite a journey to this point, but I adopted the name the Brain Lady because my clients started saying, "Oh, we got to go to the Brain Lady today," because I was helping them tune up their brain. So that's how I got the name.
Okay, so you didn't think of it yourself. You just started getting called it and said, "Hey, I'm going to take this and run with it."
I might as well. It's appropriate. I do a lot of work with brains. So.
All right, so getting going. When did this budding Brain Lady in you begin?
Well, let me go back a little bit. Actually, I have a degree in applied mathematics.
Oh.
I used to work as a computer software engineer, and I was working for a company that had contracts with NASA, and actually wrote programs that went on the spacecraft command and coding software. And we used to run outside because we were close to Cape Canaveral and watch the spaceships go by and say, "I hope my stuff is working. My programs are working." And then I moved up to the Connecticut area and started working for a company that makes submarines. And I ended up working in Navy projects, writing programs for sonar technology and defensive weapon systems for the Trident and submarines and so forth. And then I got sick, and it started me on a healing journey that introduced me to all kinds of different treatment modalities and healing modalities, and really started this journey towards where I am today, because I was going to the doctors and they didn't really know what was wrong with me. I had pain all over my body.
Oh.
And so I ended up having to discover how to help myself. And two things I did to do that. One is I went to the library and got a armload full of books on mindfulness and meditation and started to learn those skills, and that really helped my pain. And I actually teach mindfulness nationally, and just finishing a book about it. And I also changed careers, went back to school, got a master's degree in social work, and started helping people and, applying some of these things that I had learned for my own life. And I ended up learning about neurofeedback.
Yeah.
And neurofeedback, I adopted neurofeedback into my practice in 1999, so I've been doing it for quite a long time. And my daughter was my first neurofeedback client because she had ADHD. And so she was my guinea pig, but lo and behold, after doing neurofeedback with her, we were able to stop her medications. And she graduated from college with 3 years on the dean's list with no stimulant medications. And now at 27, I couldn't be more proud of her. And of course, her dad has ADHD, so I was surrounded by it in my personal life.
Oh, yeah.
And then I started to have lots. I mean, it turns out that it's pretty prevalent in the general population, and so when I have clients, because I know about ADHD, I can help them with that, and that isn't always true. A lot of times they've been to other therapists who never picked up on the fact that they were having trouble concentrating, or their impulse control was not well controlled, and that they were hyperactive and they were making, impulsive decisions and so forth, and forgetting things. And so when I started to help them, I just started to become the local expert on ADHD. And with the neurofeedback, that's another piece of the puzzle for treating it, which is very effective. In fact, it's just been adopted by the American Academy of Pediatrics as one of the best supports for ADHD.
Oh. Yeah, because up until about last week, I hadn't really even heard much about use of neurofeedback in helping with ADHD. I actually just interviewed last week Mitzi Hollander from down in South Africa, and she runs a neurofeedback lab down there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it just seems like quite a switch from being a computer programmer, where you're in your own little world, to
Hmm.
reaching out and helping out, especially with an ADHD community who are very much vocal and like getting out there. So were you always open to that, like, or did you used to be leave me alone, I'm programming type of person?
No, I was a programmer. I was very good at it. But I ended up being in charge of everything all the time. I used to run the project. I was a project manager. I ran one I'm thinking of now was between two companies, two actually that were competing with each other in the Navy community, to write some software that had to communicate with each other and so forth and so on. And I was in charge of that and helping them get along with each other and make sure that they all got what they needed and dealing with the conflicts and all of that kind of stuff. And that became more of what I was doing than just sitting writing programs, although I did write a lot of them. And I was in charge, managing people, and I just started to feel like, I'm doing the wrong thing here.
Yeah.
I'm a computer programmer expert. I should be helping people because I seem to be doing a lot of that in my computer software engineering career. There I was helping people a great deal and doing more of the people thing. So I went back and took some courses, social work courses, to just see if it was something that I would like to do or not. I wasn't really sure.
Okay.
And I started a volunteer position as a parent aide, where I would go into people's homes where a child had been identified at risk of neglect or abuse, and help the parent parent that child better and teach them parenting skills and life skills and whatnot. And I discovered, I was afraid I would be frustrated because what if people didn't change?
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
a big worry.
what if they didn't get it? But I discovered that there are tiny little changes, and those things, if we celebrate those little changes, it starts to grow. And I'm planting seeds, and you never know where those seeds are going to blossom later. And I really enjoyed doing that. So I decided to go ahead and get my master's degree in social work.
Well, yeah, that's the philosophy to go. That's one thing. Just reading about ADHD, well, frankly, anybody, is celebrating those small successes rather than getting after them. Oh, you didn't clean up your room. Oh, you didn't do this. You didn't do that. Versus, wow, you actually did that.
Absolutely, because we tend to focus on the negative, and we get that little inner critic sitting on our shoulder going, you can't do this, you didn't do that, you're stupid, you're too slow, whatever. And we need to, I always say, to stuff a sock in its mouth and just tell it to stop that, because we all have gifts and strengths, and I happen to be very attracted to people that have ADHD. I love the energy, I love the creativity, the thinking outside the box. They're lots of fun. There's a lot of gifts that they have, and so I think that's partly why I really enjoy working with folks that have ADHD, because I know I see their gifts and strengths, but I also see their struggles.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, I'm a very organized person. I can teach them skills to really help them thrive, not just survive, but to thrive.
Yeah, and I bet with your skills and stuff, even as a software programmer, you've probably come up with programs to use in your own practice.
Well, it turns out with neurofeedback, I don't write the programs anymore, but I sure understand more about what's behind what I'm doing when I'm looking at the different algorithms that they use to analyze the brainwave patterns, for example. I used to write those programs.
Oh, wow.
for Navy, for sonar. So it's sound, and they're very similar. The fast Fourier transforms and whatever that they use to sort out the different frequencies in the brainwave patterns. I understand what's going on because I used to write them, but I don't have to write them anymore. I can just use them.
Yay! All right, so let's take a step back. So how does this neurofeedback and understanding the scans and stuff, what's going on in the brains, how does that translate to why an ADHDer would be disorganized, have all these impulses that they just can't seem to control? How does that translate? Are you able to actually map that out, or?
Yeah, there's the technology nowadays is called a QEEG. It's a quantitative electroencephalogram, which is a classic EEG. It's an electrical picture of the brain, but it goes one step further in that it compares the brainwave data with normative databases, and it can say, hey, right here at this particular location on your brain, like right in the front, right here, whatever, the brainwave in this frequency is 3 standard deviations bigger than it should be, or smaller than it should be. Or we can talk about coherence, which is the ability of different areas of the brain to communicate with each other, and so we can see disconnects there, or things that are too connected, and then use the neurofeedback to correct that. So with ADHD, some of the studies have shown that about 92% of the people that truly have ADHD have theta brainwaves, which is a sort of a slow daydreaming brainwave, way too high, right up in the frontal part of the brain, and their beta brainwave, which is your focus and concentration, and your active brainwave isn't big enough. So the ratio of the theta to beta is too high, and so that's right in the part of the brain. It's in the prefrontal cortex, and that's where we pay attention, we plan, we organize, we regulate our emotions, all of the things that people with ADHD tend to struggle with. And so with neurofeedback, we can start to train those brainwave patterns back to normal, or more normal, and then they function better.
Okay, so, and that's kind of a bit where like the sonar using sound and stuff comes in helping train the brain to, I guess, get more beta waves, because there's not enough beta waves. Is that it?
Typically there's too many theta waves, which is the slow brain waves, and it's not sound, it's actually electricity. But electrical brainwave patterns, and there are some other patterns as well with ADHD. Sometimes there's too much beta all over the head, and we call it a beta head. That person is wired, just revved up, too much going on at the same time. Or an alpha wave may be too big in improper areas of the brain, which is kind of spacey. You're just kind of not tuned in. And as we go, we learn more and more and more. Every time I go to a conference, there's more knowledge about this and more articles being published in the journals about this.
Yeah, because I find this fascinating that they're able to single out these areas and then I guess send the electric stimulation to try and train that area. Because one of the criticisms that I've found against medication is that it affects the whole wave, so the whole brain is stimulated, versus just the certain sections and stuff like that.
Yeah, the neurofeedback is very specific, and there are different types of neurofeedback. The one I've used the longest doesn't send any electrical activity to the brain at all. It just gives the person information. It's giving them feedback visually and auditorily about what their brain is doing. So, for example, I put a sensor on their head, and they play a video game, without using their hands. And they control, one of the games I play is Space Race, and they control the rockets by changing their brainwave patterns.
Wow.
So if this, for example, say their theta is too big, and one of the rockets is associated with their theta brainwave, and it's flying like mad, and we're saying, oh, bring it back. You don't want the theta to be going so much. And they start to bring it back, and they start to get points and beeps and so forth. So through a process called operant conditioning, they start to learn how to control those brainwaves, and they actually change them. They start to be able to self-regulate. I mean, that's the key word here, is self-regulation. Doesn't mean they aren't going to have any theta waves. It just means if they need to sit down and concentrate, they can lower those enough to focus and do what they need to do.
And of course, the important thing is they know what that's like, what it is like to slow down and concentrate, because, you know, definitely some people like, oh, I don't know what that feels like.
And that's very common. And if a lot of times I hear people say, I'm getting sleepy. And I'm saying, well, are you really tired? And so, not really. And I said, well, maybe that's how it feels when your brain is a little more relaxed. Mm-hmm. And they go, oh, okay. If it's somebody that's got a very fast, brainwave pattern. Typically with ADHD, we're just trying to calm down the arousal state enough for somebody that's really hyperactive and impulsive, that type of ADHD, to really calm that down so that they can stay focused and not be totally distracted all the time by whatever it is that's, in their mind or in their environment. There's also another kind of neurofeedback called the lens, low energy neurofeedback system, and that actually sends a tiny FM pulse of energy to the brain. It's about 1,000th of the size of a cell phone pulse, so it's imperceptible. But it disrupts what the brain is doing. It reads what it is at that particular site and then sends this pulse and says, okay, do this instead, please. Just gently do this instead. And that has been very effective. It's been very effective with traumatic brain injury and any type of brain disorder, and there have been a number of studies with ADHD as well, with great success. Right. So I tend to combine them in my practice.
Well, yeah, use all the tools that you have at your disposal. So let's take a generic situation. Who are generally your clients, and why do they come see you versus there's doctors who would just prescribe them the medication or something like that. Why would someone come see you?
My sense from, the client, all the clients have come, I've worked with kids, I've worked with adults, is that they find me when they've already tried almost everything else. It's like they've been there, done that, and they are attracted to the fact that, first, I am a very sort of down-to-earth person, and I really connect and talk, and I get it. They know that I get it. I understand it. I've been there. And I have clients that come for depression and anxiety and ADHD and traumatic brain injury. I mean, lots of different parenting issues. But they tend to find me through other people usually, or sometimes on the internet. And they like, the fact that I am more holistically inclined. And by holistic, I'm not talking about necessarily, supplementation and all this kind of stuff. What I mean by that is that I look at the whole picture, that I'm looking at all the pieces of the puzzle to put them together to find out what this person sitting in front of me really needs. And that's going to be different for each person. And, I worked with a man that just pops into my mind now that was not doing well at work because he could never get his reports written on time. And he'd never been told that he had ADHD or anything. Nobody he didn't even know what it was. And when I sat with him, it was clear to me, when I did an assessment and just teaching him to use an electronic planner and put the stuff in there so that he had a little warning that he needed to get the report done today so he could turn it in tomorrow, he started to get them done. And he just didn't learn those organizational skills. Most people will absorb them and learn them as you go, but folks with ADHD sometimes don't. It just isn't. It doesn't happen automatically for them, but they can learn it.
Yeah.
And and people, there are many famous inventors and leaders that have ADHD. It's not something that totally disrupts your whole life, as long as you learn to work with it and identify the challenges that you have and learn some coping skills.
All right. So in your holistic approach, someone comes into your office, Debra, please fix me, or fix my child, or something like that.
Yeah, often fix my child.
Yeah, fix my child. What's your process in? Obviously you probably don't just go sit in that and we'll put this little helmet on you. What? No.
Yeah. I really first I do a really complete assessment because I really want to understand what's going on. What I've discovered over my career is that a lot of times people have been diagnosed with ADHD who don't really have ADHD.
Okay.
They kind of throw that, diagnosis out there, but because I can look at the brainwave patterns with my neurofeedback and the QEEGs, I often find people that have had head injuries, for example, or have sensory integration problems, or disconnects in other parts of the brain that aren't typically what you see with ADHD. So I'll give an example. I had a 7-year-old come in years back, and she had been diagnosed with ADHD, but when they put her on stimulant medication, she went through the roof.
Oh.
She just became wild. And she had learning disabilities, and she had an anger, a rage inside of her that I've never experienced, never witnessed in a 7-year-old. And she was in a 20th percentile on her standardized testing in 2nd grade. So when I did the QEEG, we looked at the brainwave patterns, and it looked like right on top of her head the brain waves there were the fast brain waves were humongous. They were huge, and that's not a typical ADHD pattern. And I had already asked if she'd had a head injury, and her mother had said no. But when I showed her the brain map, she said, she did fall out of her crib when she was 2, and she did hit her head, but she had an MRI and a CAT scan, and they said everything was normal. And I said, well, the electrical activity isn't normal.
No.
So I did neurofeedback with her. That I don't always do neurofeedback. I do a lot of phone consultation, but when people are in my office, we can do that. And within 9 months, she was in the 80th percentile on her standardized testing, and her rage was gone. She started to make friends. She got invited to a party. She wasn't perfect, but she was way better. Yeah. Now, that was somebody that had already been diagnosed with ADHD, been treated with ADHD medications to no avail, was on that track, had been, put in learning disability track.
All it probably started at age 5 or 6, probably.
Well, it started at 2.
Well, yeah.
When she fell on her head. So I want to look and see if this is, what is really going on for this person, and understand how it's impacting their life and their relationships, and what their challenges are and how they feel about themselves, their self-esteem, learning to help them replace, this chronic automatic negative thinking that they end up with, which is common in ADHD. It's also common in depression and anxiety, and lots of other issues.
And there's a lot of those coexisting conditions too.
Absolutely. And I want to know, possibly they have a hearing disorder or a vision problem. They may have a learning disability. I actually like to get school records. I'm thinking of a woman who was in her late 30s when she came in. She was on a stimulant medication for ADHD, and when I started working with her, I said, okay, when did this start? Because typically it needs to start in childhood. Yeah. And so she was actually able to go to her mother, who had her report cards from her elementary school. You never know who has them, but she did. And I could see comments on there like, has trouble sitting still, doesn't pay attention, fails to complete her tasks, talks excessively, all of those things. It's like the checklist for ADHD.
It is. I just last week ran across my wife's old report cards, and like you said, it's a checklist.
It's right there. And it's not in the grades necessarily. It's in the comments. So I like to get that information, and I like to find out if they have allergies. Food allergies can, and maybe not even allergies, but food sensitivities can really impact people. I've seen milk and wheat, just common things that everybody is eating, really affect people's mood and their ability to focus. And even my daughter had a problem with milk, and it turned her into a really angry little person. And I think it started before she could even tell me how she felt, but I think it made her feel ill. And so she would really have temper tantrums, and I'm like, why is she having these temper tantrums? I think I'm an okay mom, So I took milk out of her diet for 1 week, and she didn't have a single temper tantrum all week. And I gave her milk at the end of the week, just one serving of it, and within a half an hour she's laying on the floor kicking and screaming, having a temper tantrum. And I said, So those kinds of things started to enter into my practice, because, my thinking is, what is going on for this person as far as allergies, vision? Are they chemically sensitive? I was chemically sensitive. I start off by telling you I got sick, and one of the things that I was experiencing was chemical sensitivity. I would end up with flu symptoms if I was exposed to new carpeting or perfume or oil-based paint, just all kinds of things. And it would give me a cognitive fog, which was very much like having ADHD. You just can't focus. So learning about all of those things really helped me, to start to see these kinds of patterns in other people as well when they were there. They're not always there, but sometimes they are. And I look at, are they getting any exercise? Are they getting moving? Are they the studies are very clear that having regular exercise is helpful for ADHD as well as depression, and often they're comorbid. We often see folks with ADHD that are depressed and anxious, not uncommon at all, and lots of other comorbid issues, substance abuse, all kinds of things happen. So I want to get the whole picture for this person, help them. Maybe they need to go to someone like a naturopathic physician to get an assessment for heavy metals, or to see do they have enough zinc and magnesium, and what's their omega-3 fatty acid level look like, because all of those have been implicated in ADHD.
Definitely.
So,
and I'm sure a lot of this comes from your social work background. Do you do home visits just to see how the home situation is, or?
I don't typically, not to say that I haven't. Certainly my beginning of my career, I was in the home all the time. That's where I started. That's where my work was. And I sometimes go to the schools for kids and observe them in the classroom. And if it's appropriate, if it's not becoming clear to me what's going on for the person, then a home visit might be appropriate. It just might be. It's also appropriate to have other members of the family to come in, because I get a whole different perspective from everyone than I will from one person. How do other people perceive them? I'll give you an example. I had worked with a teenage girl who was in a sort of high-functioning autistic spectrum and lots of ADHD types of symptoms, and she, her parents brought her regularly, and we did a combination of psychotherapy and neurofeedback and social skills and so forth, and she was doing way better. She even got invited to a party, which is that's one of the things I like to see, that they're getting some social connections. And one day she said to me, "Deb, I think my dad needs to come see you."
Oh yes, I was about to bring that up.
And I said, okay. So I talked to him, and he said, okay, I'll come. Well, it turns out he had a diagnosis of bipolar disorder, and he was on medication for it. Okay. He was a very high-functioning businessman, very successful, but he would get enraged with his daughter. He was just so angry because she wasn't just doing what he told her to do and so forth. And so we started doing the neurofeedback, and he kept telling me, "I don't feel any different, Deb. I just don't feel any different. Turn up the juice." That's what he used to tell me. Turn up the juice, which didn't make any sense, but funny anyway. I really enjoyed this father. So eventually, his wife came in one day, and I said to her, "Do you notice any change?" And she said, "Oh my God, Deb, now I remember why I married the man. He is so much calmer. He doesn't yell anymore. He's happier." But he had no self-awareness of that at all. He couldn't see the difference at all. So it was very important for me to have that other perspective on what was going on.
Yeah, that brings up two questions for me. One, again, is the self-awareness part, and two is, as we talked about in the beginning, a lot of these ADHD or whatever it might be have the genetic component to them, so it generally runs in families, so people bring in their children, all the while denying that they have the same symptoms themselves. So how do you work in that area?
Well, typically, like you said, the child is the identified client because the parents are struggling with the child and see that the child has some challenges, and so they bring them in. But I can pick it up pretty quickly that, what's going on in the family when I try to make sure I meet both parents and often the siblings if I can, and really kind of see what's going on for them. And of course, I do a very complete family history when I first meet people to understand, is there any family history of this? And sometimes people will say, well, I don't know of anybody in my family that has ADHD, and I said, well, do you know of anybody that ever had trouble concentrating or trouble with school? Or, well, yeah, I did. So it starts to come out. It starts to come out. Even my daughter, her dad got diagnosed after she did. So it was, the reason that he realized he had it.
Okay, and then just with your clients and stuff like that, building that self-awareness themselves, because like especially children, sometimes they're like going, oh, I take the medication, but it doesn't do anything, so I don't like taking it because it doesn't do anything. When
Mm.
you talk to everyone else, like going, oh, we can totally tell when he when
I
he's
have a
on it or not.
I have a story about that I just love. I worked with this little 6-year-old boy who was cute as a button, as hyperactive as anyone I had ever seen. And his parents and his psychiatrist decided to put him on a stimulant medication. So he took the medication in the morning, he went to school that day, and then he came to see me on the very same day, the first day that he took it. And I said to him, so is the medicine working? And he goes, oh yeah, Miss Deb, it's working. Then I said, well, how do you know it's working? Do you feel any different? He says, oh no, I don't feel any different. I said, well, how do you know it's working? He says, because nobody yelled at me all day. Which is a really sad statement, because we know that the kids are getting a lot of negative messages from their parents, their teachers, their peers, and when it's not being treated at all, they don't understand what they're doing that's causing this negative feedback. And so he didn't know what he was doing, but he knew it stopped.
Yeah, he knew it stopped, but as you're saying, it's sad that just within a morning, that this constant negative feedback that they're getting is over and over and over again. And let's say, I know on your website you do talk a bit about this negative feedback and negative self-talk and stuff like that, and some of the things that you work with on that note with the mindfulness.
Absolutely.
Care to elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, the mindfulness is basically being able to pay attention to something in particular on purpose, non-judgmentally. And of course, that definition is exactly what people with ADHD have trouble with.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They have trouble paying attention to something in particular. It doesn't mean they can't do it, but they're going to have to work harder at it than average. But through mindfulness skills, learning mindfulness skills, the studies are pretty clear that it actually improves concentration, even in the ADHD population. So I incorporate that now with my clients to teach them just to tune in, to breathe, teach them a relaxation breath so that they can start to calm themselves down and start to be more self-aware, start to feel like they have a little bit more self-control, start to teach them how to pay attention to something in particular, even if it's for 30 seconds, let's play, whatever it is, with kids or with adults. I have lots of different techniques to help them to learn these skills without sitting and meditating for 30 minutes. I mean, that would be intolerable for somebody to start there with ADHD.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
there's lots of
it definitely is. Even my wife just about a year ago finally got her to give meditation a chance, but she's like, oh no, I cannot possibly do it. It's impossible for me. And now she's found some guided ones that she really loves and stuff like that.
The guided ones are helpful because they help, it's very normal for the mind to wander. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's a myth about mindfulness, is that you sit there and with no thoughts for 20 minutes, and that's not true. Your mind, with 60,000 thoughts a day, your brain is going to be generating thoughts all the time. It's supposed to. Mm-hmm. So the process of mindfulness is just noticing when the thought is not about what your intended target of attention is. What was I planning to pay attention to? And if it's about something else, to just, as soon as you notice it, just acknowledge it and dismiss the thought and bring your attention back to what you wanted to pay attention to, over and over and over again. And it takes practice, but it gets easier with practice. And if you here's an example. Mm-hmm. Paying attention to brushing your teeth. Okay, so pay attention to every aspect of brushing your teeth. Notice how the tube of toothpaste feels in your hand. Notice how the toothbrush feels in your hand. Notice what it looks like when you put the toothpaste on the brush, and how, if there's any fragrance or odor to it, and how it feels when you first put the toothbrush on your teeth and start to clean your teeth, and notice the texture and the flavor and the temperature and so forth, and just every aspect of brushing your teeth. You could do that every time you brush your teeth. You're training your brain to pay attention.
That's an awesome exercise.
It's simple. It's, we can do it when we're driving. We can do it when eating, to notice what we're eating. Now, you're not going to do it every single time. No. That's impossible. But to pick one task that you do every day and just practice being mindful while you do it.
Okay. Now, I've got a question for you. Being in the United States with your practice, are you covered by insurance?
I I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I am able to accept third-party reimbursement. I am not participating in any of the panels. I did for 14 years, but I decided to not do that anymore. So if people have out-of-network benefits, they will get reimbursed for whatever they pay me. Neurofeedback has still been struggling a bit to get paid by insurance, although we are beginning to see it. I've had it sometimes covered. I'm a psychotherapist. I'm doing psychotherapy. I incorporate neurofeedback as part of that psychotherapy. So, if I'm seeing somebody and I happen to be doing a little neurofeedback along with it, most of what I'm doing is psychotherapy. So I will charge it as the psychotherapy code. And if in certain cases I will try to get, authorization for neurofeedback, I think we'll see that it becomes more and more reimbursable because the studies are clear. The American Academy of Pediatrics puts it on their best support. You can't tell me it's experimental anymore or investigational like the insurance companies would like to say.
Yeah.
I think they'll embrace it because they're going to see that it costs them less in the long run than putting somebody on medications for the rest of their life.
Well, especially when they can't see what's going on in the brain. Like, it's not like a broken bone that you can see the x-ray and stuff like that.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. Although with this, we can see it now. That's what is so cool about this field, is being able to really see what's going on in somebody's brain. And I mean, I've worked with a number of people with traumatic brain injuries, and when we get those QEEGs back and you can see right where it is, I mean, it's right there. And people with learning disabilities, with anger problems, we've learned more and more and more about the connections in the brain. We know for autism, some of the coherence problems where the brain areas are not connected properly. They're either too connected or not connected enough. And by reconnecting them more appropriately with the neurofeedback, they start to function better and really thrive.
All right. So what's your vision for your own practice as well as the industry? Like, do you see more of this coming together as far as the holistic approach with?
Yeah, I think that I think it has to.
Yeah.
I guess, because typically when my daughter was diagnosed with ADHD, all they really knew how to do then was give her medications, period. That was it. They didn't have any other options for me, nothing. And so there are lots of options now, and there are lots of non-drug treatments for ADHD. Certainly the neurofeedback is the most powerful, but beyond that, teaching mindfulness skills, incorporating exercise, looking at diet, making sure the person is not deficient in zinc and magnesium and omega-3s, looking at their environment, helping them set up systems that help them stay organized, and reminder systems and so forth. So I think that neurofeedback you'll see more and more and more of it, and I think that ADHD is finally being recognized. I think it's overdiagnosed. I think there are other things that are causing some of the ADHD symptoms, but it doesn't matter. We still need to treat them and give the person some help with whatever is going on.
All right, yeah, especially we got DSM-5 about to come out.
Oh. And it's interesting in there, they've changed some of the criteria for ADHD, including one of the things they did is they moved it into the neurodevelopmental disorders, which didn't exist before. Instead of the disorders of childhood, that makes a whole lot of sense because it is a neurodevelopment disorder. 60% of the kids that have ADHD are going to become adults with ADHD. Yep. And so having it a disorder of childhood didn't really make any sense. And it is a neurodevelopment disorder. It's in the brain. It's not, the myth that it's because of your parent or things like that. It's not. It's definitely brain-based.
All right. So as we wrap up this interview, what are some of the resources that people can come to you about, like on your website or in your practice? How do people work with you and stuff like that? And then just any final message you want to get out to the whole community.
Okay. My website is thebrainlady.com. Make sure you put the in front of it, thebrainlady.com. You can reach me at deb@thebrainlady.com. If you go to my website, you can sign up for my free e-zine, which is a monthly newsletter, and you will get a couple of free reports, one about 6 simple steps to for brain health and one on ADHD, and you can stay in touch with me then and find out about the programs and events that I'm doing and whatnot. My website is full of articles and resources about ADHD. You're smiling because you saw them, I think. So there's lots of free information there. I've written 4 books about ADHD. One is about getting an accurate diagnosis, one is about looking at the various treatment options, and one is about ADHD and sleep, because many people with ADHD have trouble with sleep, as well as a home study system for parents for helping children with ADHD be successful, which has 11 hours of CDs in that. It's truly a course to go through all the aspects in a holistic way to really look at how to help best help your child. And I teach nationally for PESI, so I teach therapists and teachers about this, and I am also doing teletrainings, which get announced through my newsletter and on my website. And I do phone coaching and Skype coaching, so you don't have to be local to me for me to help you. I can certainly work with you no matter where you are. I've worked with people as far away as Spain and Australia, so it doesn't really require you to be here to do that. I can't do the neurofeedback on the phone with you, but I can certainly help you find somebody local who can do that with you if that's an option that you'd like to pursue. And I do the neurofeedback in my office.
Okay.
Did that answer that?
That did answer. A lot of resources available. Definitely, if something that Debra does, look her up and give her a call. So I guess in closing, as you said, there's so many resources out there that most of us just don't know about, and definitely don't look at this neurofeedback as the last resort.
Absolutely. I think that if of course I did this with my daughter, but if my child or I had ADHD, I would definitely be doing the neurofeedback, because I've seen such dramatic improvements with it over the last, I've been doing it for 14 or 15 years. So I've seen dramatic changes in people's lives. I have to tell you, one little boy came to me, had been kicked out of his school for violent and aggressive behavior. He was 9 years old. He was in a psychiatric clinical day school. He was on 5 psychotropic medications, including 2 stimulants. And I worked with him for 46 neurofeedback sessions. It took us a year. I did psychotherapy with him and the neurofeedback. He had been diagnosed with ADHD, but it was more than that, because his father and his mother had both abandoned him. There's a lot of stuff going on there. But at any rate, at the end of that year, he was back in his regular school. He brought me his science exam with an A+ on it. His teachers were complimenting him. His neighbors were complimenting him on his behavior. And he was off all of those medications. And now at 10 years old, he said, "Miss Deb, I have a new life."
Oh, and that definitely makes your work that hearing those stories. And
yeah, and it's not unusual.
No, it's not unusual. There's a lot of good stories out there, and we hope to create some new ones. So once again, Debra Burdick with thebrainlady.com. And this is Michael Hurd with ADHD Expression signing off.
Take care.